Hello? Can people hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're good to go.
Okay, no, sorry. You were
No,
on
no
mute
worries.
before.
Yeah, you're good to go.
All right, thank you. So, yeah, today I'm here to give the updates from the Cow Protocol CowDAO side and interesting updates on the product side. We have a couple of integrations that are quite big names in the industry. One is On-Chain DIN, which is this application built on top of the safe that makes it very easy and simple to actually read and transact with the safe. It's kind of the non-developer friendly version of the safe. Everything is built on top of it, but they recently just integrated native swaps by integrating the Causal widget. So now when you're actually swapping on chain DIN, you're swapping through Core Protocol because the orders get sent there, and you get the best of both worlds, right? You get smart contracts, smart contract wallet, and also intents. Then also on another side of the integrations, we have Aragon, who Aragon has integrated the DApp Connect into their platform. And this allows any DAO to very easily propose a trade through the CowSwap interface and then attach it directly to a proposal. So this has been quite exciting. And as of last week, we also have a new integration that is focused on privacy preserving aspects of trading. Because right now, whenever you post an order on CowSwap, basically the order becomes visible to anyone that's listening to the open order book. But with Ferry Block, they've actually launched Ferry Cow Swap, which essentially what it does is encrypts the order until it's the moment of execution. So the order will not hit the order book until it's actually close to executing. So this becomes extremely helpful for the case of limit orders. And then in terms of other exciting news, we also from the MEV blocker side integrated within Etherscan, right? Before, whenever you submitted a transaction through MEV blocker, you could have a little bit of a panic because if you clicked on the wallet link for your block explorer, you saw the worst possible news, which was sorry, we're unable to locate this transaction hash. But at least now with this integration, you're going to see that the transaction is pending and that this transaction was made through MVP Blocker and this in the virtual mempool of MVP Blocker. And then lastly, we have, of course, the pioneers of the DGen products, which is Karpathy, and deploying in the week of the Safe token release a KYMM pool with Safe with around $200,000 on each side. So it's quite interesting to see the trust that they're putting on the KYMM and actually enjoying the LBR protection and the APR that the KYMM is able to generate. And then on the next slide for the CowDAO update. So in terms of actual DAO votes, there hasn't been any movement since the last time I was here speaking, but there has been movement in two areas that are relevant for the DAO. The first one is that the actual CAP38 that we covered, I think was in the last call, was finally activated. And what has happened is that now we have sort of a new loop for the cow tokenomics, because before the cow token main purpose was for deciding on the decisions of the DAO, but from the kind of ecosystem side of things, it was the source of revenue for solvers, because every solver is rewarded on cow tokens based on the batches that they produce. And then the issue from there was that they were the main sell pressure point, because of course solvers, they have an infrastructure that they need to pay for. And if their only revenue is on cow, it is normal that they actually sell certain amounts to actually cover their bills. But now with CAP38, all the fees that from the protocol that are being captured by the solvers and then forwarded to us are now converted to cow tokens via this buyback program. And then the cow tokens are actually deposited in the treasury. And then on the other interesting side of things, we also have this new dashboard that's accessible in Dune, where you can see live on a daily basis how is CowDAO revenue generation going through. So far since the beginning of this year, the DAO has already generated 414 ETH, and there are three main lines of revenue. The main one being the protocol revenue. So this is basically the swaps, where as of the CIP, I think it was 34. Right now, in out-of-market limit orders, the protocol charges 50% of the price improvement, and then also on normal market orders, the protocol is charging a percentage on this price improvement. Then also the protocol is charging from the widget integrators from the partner fee. It's also getting a cut. And then lastly, from MEV blocker revenue, basically the builders are now paying to have access to this order flow. And so far, since the last 3 weeks, the protocol has already generated 30. And yeah, this is all I have for today.
Cool. Thank you, Alex. And let me
Thank you for having me.
take you off the stage. We'll see you soon. And next up, we have an update from the Gnosis Guild. And let me bring Marv up to the stage. Marv, you are live. Go for it.
Hey, thanks for having us, John. Hello, everybody. Let me know if my mic isn't working right here. Yeah, so actually, I think I had just added a slide. It was about GIP 99. So I'm going to talk about that first.
Actually, Marv, give me 1 second and I can update the slides here.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah, it's nothing special, but
Okay, cool. Go for it.
Perfect. Thanks, John. So yeah, the first thing I want to mention here was a proposal we posted on the Gnosis forum to steward GnosisDAO governance. Our tooling and development has helped secure and operationalize their governance and treasury asset management for a couple of years now. So, but we'd like to just dedicate resources to essentially guide a new phase of innovation and growth. So aside from improving and maintaining their current governance infrastructure, we think the GnosisDAO is like in a unique position to become leading innovators of DAO governance. And yeah, so this proposal is just wanting to help make that happen as they focus on their other projects. The proposal includes KPIs, detailed initiatives, deliverables, pricing. So yeah, encourage you to check it out on the forums and leave any feedback or comments. Voting on the proposal, it looks like it closes in a couple days, so it'd be nice if we can get a little more feedback in there. Next slide, please. All right, so yeah, I'd like to highlight two interrelated projects that we've been developing over the past several months called Enclave and Crisp. Enclave is the main protocol we're building, designed for what we're calling encrypted execution environments. The intention is to simplify the complexities of fully homomorphic encryption, ZKPs, and threshold cryptography for organizations to build their own privacy-preserving apps. So this other project is called Crisp, which is actually an implementation of Enclave that allows secure and encrypted voting without revealing information about the voters. So you can think of it as essentially a protocol for digital decision-making using FHE and threshold cryptography to enable ballots that are both secret and verifiable. So yeah, we're working on drafting a white paper and building a proof of concept demo site, which will walk users through how voting and secret ballots work with Crisp. The slide there has a screenshot of how it's looking at the moment. Yeah, we'll be sharing a bunch of updates on both in the coming weeks and months. Next slide, please. Okay, yeah, this is the final one. In case you didn't know, we hold a democratic vote in each of our dev cycles to decide what projects we're working on as a team. And just wanted to quickly share a bit on what we voted to focus on for our current cycle outside of the 2 protocols I just mentioned. First, on the slide is a project intended to add native support for our roles mod to the Safe web app and roles utilities to the Safe SDK. The purpose is to provide a seamless way for those in the Safe ecosystem to easily take advantage of the roles mod, which, in case you didn't know, allows basically any account to act on behalf of a smart account through the creation and assigning of role-based permissions. The second one there is designed to add new delegation capabilities like split delegation to SafeDAO space. So yeah, both of these projects come out of proposals designed to foster Safe's module ecosystem and increase governance participation. The last item in the cycle is a project that's intended to make improvements to Pilot, which is a browser extension / application that allows users to build transactions on behalf of a smart account. Improvements include making connections better and expanding the number of supported execution routes, as well as a backend service that will allow Pilot users to use their own wallet to connect with apps rather than Safe Wallet Connect. And final updates here, I'll run through them pretty quickly. The good folks at HATS recently shared a write-up on how TreasureDAO is using HATS and the roles mod for expanding community participation in the Arbitrum DAO governance. You can find a link on our Twitter to read more. Also, our engineer Jan will be talking about the roles mod at DAppCon. And finally, the engineers on our team will soon be launching a blog to share technical posts and insights from the development perspective. And we'll share that once it's live. Yeah, that's it from the Guild. Thanks as always, John. Excited to hear from Breadchain.
Cool. Thank you so much, Marv. And yeah, let me bring Josh up to the stage here. And let me introduce Breadchain Cooperative real quick and switch the slide here. Yeah, we're super excited to have Breadchain on. They recently deployed onto Gnosis Chain, which I'm sure Josh will talk about. Breadchain is a community of decentralized cooperative projects building solidarity primitives for a post-capitalist Web3. Super cool. And Josh, yeah, thanks for making the time. I'm going to hand it over to you. I'll exit the stage here and yeah, take it away.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot for the invite. Yeah, so recently we've been working on Breadchain for a little bit now, and we were first deployed on Polygon, and we kind of recently made the switch over to Gnosis Chain for a few different reasons that I'll go into it, but it's kind of a really exciting time for us. And really excited on what we can build on Gnosis Chain because of the switch, of course. But yeah, to give a little bit of maybe context of what Breadchain is for people who maybe don't know, Breadchain is essentially a network of a few different projects, all kind of of what we can call post-capitalism, or wanting some type of political economy that is different than the current extractive one that we have now. And so as part of like this network of different projects, we kind of share our labor power, our resources, decision-making and mentorship between each other, while at the same time using crypto to kind of facilitate these relationships for us. And so, yeah, kind of like the driving force behind this is kind of that, it is like the world of kind of profit maximization is not the only one that we can live in. If we want to live in some sort of possibility we're doing. And so if you go to the next slide, why we created Breadchain. So the story is basically that I started my blog and podcast called The Blockchain Socialist now a few years ago. And with that started an online community called Crypto Leftists. And of course, while it's nice and fine and dandy to talk about, a new world using this cool technology and what we could potentially do with it, but it's another thing to actually do it and to put in the efforts and put in the time and resources to make that possible. And so kind of like part of our, because I had all these people in the Discord and subreddit around who wanted to actually take part in all this, we kind of decided, let's do it. But we had to think about like, what exactly would that look like? If we're considering the possibilities that blockchains will become more consequential, cryptocurrencies will become more important in the world, there needs to be some sort of organizational infrastructure in preparation for that kind of future. And so Breadchain is kind of first and foremost a point of reference for people who are interested in post-capitalism, who are interested in creating some sort of real alternative. But it also, at the same time needs to contend with the very real obstacles that we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. We both want to create a new system, but we also have to deal with the reality of how the existing system works. Right now, it's kind of like people versus money, I would say. So we need to find a way to kind of like to deal with this contradiction, which is not an easy one to fix. And so Breadchain is therefore like also a kind of mimetic attractor to explore crypto for this new type of political economy that we want to create. So it's not just about like creating a single application that will kind of solve all of our problems per se, but it is really about creating a larger movement and a larger kind of ecosystem of different players and organizations, all maybe within their own expertise or their own fields or niches, trying to make this come about. So we go to the next slide. So kind of the main core objectives of Breadchain is essentially to, one, scale solidarity using crypto. So this is like in reference to the concepts that I created as kind of thinking through this that I call solidarity primitives, or using smart contracts or software as a way to create or facilitate relationships of solidarity rather than extraction and whatever else. So, this comes from the idea that like software is political, that no matter, even if you don't think of yourself as being political when you create software or you deploy software, there is always a kind of like political element in the mix that, you can't really get around even if you wanted to. And so we want to create a politics of solidarity, of like collectivism, of, apes together strong, basically, so that we can actually create our image for a different world that isn't based on extraction. And so we have to deal with, the next core objective, which is financial sustainability for these projects so that they can endure the kind of like ups and downs of the markets or whatever else. There is just the reality, even if you want to make a new system now, we can't sort of live out our most ideal morals and principles because the system is the way that it is, and we have to deal with that reality. And then the third is to build a coalition across different projects for advising, skill sharing, cross promotion. So like the idea is that if you perhaps are part of a community of one project, and that project is a part of Breadchain, you would, because of its association with Breadchain, you would then be able to immerse yourself in a larger community of many different other projects and endeavors that you may find to be interesting, or you'd want to take part in, or you would like to learn more about, rather than solely being just kind of like siloed in one community in one interest. We can instead promote kind of cross issue, cross industry, or however you want to call it, solidarity. So if we go to the next slide. And so we have, just to say quickly, we have 4 different that we outline. 2 of them so far have articles that we go into more detail in our Mirror blog, but they include mutual aid and dual power, which are the 2 we've written about so far, and then transparent governance and economic democracy. We believe that democracy should be a part of the economy, and that, you know, even if we live in a political democracy, maybe if you live in the West, however, the economy that we contribute to or are part of is largely not democratic. And so there's a contradiction with that that needs to be resolved. And so maybe the next slide. And so this so right now, this is the current federation. The idea is that, of course, we will grow to include many more projects, and not just the ones listed here, but this is kind of what we've started with. So there is Breadchain itself, as in like me and a lot of the developers who have been building out the applications that we've built out. But it also includes, as part of the federation, these 3 projects here. One is called Symbiota Co-op, which is similar to Breadchain, an organization of many organizations, including Dandelion, which is an events platform, the Psychedelic Society, which advocates for the legalization of psychedelics in the UK. They also have like a network of kind of facilitation of like people who like to do psychedelics in groups and such, or guided trips. LaborDAO is an organization that's doing research on the relationship between labor and Web3. The Crypto Commons Association is, they largely focus on hosting events, many times with the focus of commons economic theory as an alternative to like kind of standard liberal economics. And as well, they have a project called the Commons Economy Roadmap, where they're outlining different projects that are part of, that they believe to be also part of like this mission for creating some sort of alternative to the current political economy that we have today. And so if you go next. And so the way that we're kind of like facilitating our relationship, of course, there is a big, like a big part of it is like just social relations, to be quite honest. The federation, you know, the group of us who kind of lead each of these projects, we have very high trust in each other. We know each other quite well. We're friends. So in that way, it kind of like helps a lot with a lot of the kind of like more difficult parts of like growing a larger organization. But also, you know, this can only go so far, we know. And so we have to build what we call solidarity primitives. As I mentioned before, it's essentially playing on this idea in DeFi of financial primitives. You know, this idea that we're taking like different building blocks, like kind of like Legos, and placing them all together and combining them in different complex ways. For the most part, largely creating either similar financial products that are available in the normal economy, or kind of like new funky kind of financial products as well. So here, instead, rather than you know, using blockchains for profit maximization, solidarity primitives are used to help forge solidaristic relationships between individuals and collectives. So this is acknowledging that whatever kind of technology you're using, there is a social relationship involved when you are using it. Like at the moment, me speaking on my computer here in Barcelona, and then it's spreading to all the many other people who are listening, there is a social relationship here, and there's always going to be a social relationship through the use of these technological tools and through the use of the internet. And so if we can acknowledge what types of relationships different types of technology are facilitating, then we can begin to think about what are the configurations that we need to create in order to create and facilitate the types of relations we want to have. And at least in our case, the types of relations we want to have are ones that are solidaristic. And so this is where solidarity primitives come from. This is just like acknowledging the political nature of software and that we need to kind of have our own Lego blocks for facilitating solidarity for all the many different types of groups that are out there that need this, I think. And so if we go to the next slide, I think the next slide is now I'll start explaining kind of our first solidarity primitive. If you go to the next slide. Hello. There we go. So yeah, so I had to, I think we're one back, or I think we're one back. I think we should be on 33. Yeah, you can see that like, yeah, when I made, I made these slides fairly quickly.
All good. Is this the right slide?
Sorry?
Is this the right side?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, cool. Perfect.
So the kind of way that one of the main ways that we're trying to facilitate this relationship of solidarity is through our token that we call Bread. Bread is just a stable coin. So it's equal to the US dollar, and that's because it's backed 1 by 1 from XDAI. So if we go to the next slide, so these are all like some images that we're planning to do to help to make like a Twitter thread or something like that to help explain some of this. But essentially, it's quite simple. Actually, we are taking XDAI from users, so that locks up their XDAI in the application, and then you as a user receive Bread 1-to-1. For each XDAI, you get Bread. And the XDAI, when we receive it, is credited to SDAI, the DAI savings rate on Gnosis Chain, and that's accumulating yield for the cooperative. But when you receive Bread is just like any other ERC20 token. You can send it, receive it, you can do what you want with it. It doesn't prevent you from being able to like stop you from spending, because the XDAI will always stay in the contract. So you can always burn your Bread. So you can always return it and then receive back your XDAI. Oh, we lost the slides. But so whenever you are giving XDAI, you are giving rights to the yield of the XDAI that is being generated, or the SDAI that's being generated to the cooperative. And then but you are still able to have this. You're not donating, I should say. You are able to receive back the same amount of XDAI back. I don't know where the slides went. If we lost them, but just to say as well. So like
Sorry, can you see the slides up on the screen? I can also share. Yeah. You can't see them?
Got it. I do.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, so the yield is generating, whatever the DAI savings rates plus the kind of little bit extra that you're able to get on Gnosis Chain. So, I mean, previously we were getting 17% because the DAI savings rate was at 15. Now it's at 13%. So it's quite high. And so basically how this works is that you are essentially funding a treasury that is then splitting up amongst the projects that are all part of this political project. You would, as a user, kind of the next application that we're in the process of building out is essentially our governance page, where you'll be able to vote based on your holding of Bread between the different projects, what percentage of the yield you want to go to each of them. So we go next. And so just to give you guys this kind of like a sneak peek of our dashboard at the moment, or like kind of like our governance page, essentially it's kind of like Snapshot, where you'd be able to like add points to each of the projects, and then it would produce a proportion and then you would connect to vote, you would submit your vote, and then at the end, you would your input would be taken in for the totality of the vote and how it determines the proportion. And this would happen every month. So like this is the current idea, with also the caveat that like this is an experiment, and like from what we've done, seeing with our research, there's like no other project that's kind of like done this kind of like level of democratic governance or this kind of democratic governance. So we found that we've had to kind of look around and, you know, create a lot of things that are kind of custom. But yeah, so like each month we would have a new try to do a governance round or a governance vote. And you would be able to submit your vote based on the amount of bread that you have. The way that the yield will be distributed amongst the projects, though, is that half of the yield will be an even split with all of the projects. So even if a project doesn't get anyone voted, no one votes for them, they still get at least a portion of the yield. And then the other half is a vote based on bread ownership. So the more bread you have, the more you would be able to vote, theoretically. It's also time weighted. So it's also about the amount of bread that you've held over the past month would equate to your voting power. And in the future, we want to add more variables than solely just your ownership of bread, just because we want to encourage, an amount of inclusivity, and for people who are perhaps volunteering or who are actually contributing to the project, you know, maybe we could give them certain types of tokens that would then give them multipliers on like how much voting power they have, for example. So that's something that we're building, and then we're hoping to potentially showcase later this month, where we're doing our Breadchain launch event in Berlin, in case anyone here is based in Berlin or will be at ETH Berlin. On the 25th, we'll be doing a launch event. So potentially we will be able to show this depending on the progress we're able to make before then. And if we go next, kind of like the next thing that we're building out is a dashboard. And if you go to the next slide. Don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Maybe one or two back. Can't remember.
We're on the dashboard.
The dashboard, yeah. So this is another thing that we plan on building out as well. So kind of what this is essentially an overview that anyone can look at to see kind of like the state of the bread economy. So you can see like what exactly, how much, for example, TVL is locked into bread, how much yield has been accumulated, how much yield has been distributed amongst the projects, who are those who are doing the most voting, who are the top supporters. You can then also have the ability to see your own data points. So what is your relationship in the totality of like the bread economy? This is based on this idea of kind of like a criticism of what we would call the capitalist subject, or Homo economicus, right? This is someone who goes around in the world and they like to play information asymmetry to their own advantage as a way to make more profit, right? They are people who do not want to necessarily share information, or they don't necessarily have the information available to them to know what is their position in the totality of the system. And so the only thing you can do at that point is basically, you know, be as greedy as possible, because you never know when someone else is going to like take things away from you or whatever else. You don't even have the ability, if you wanted to help a collective, without the information about what's going on with the collective, you wouldn't be able to help out. So here with this kind of dashboard, we're trying to think about like, what is the post-capitalist subject? What is the the profile of someone who lives in post-capitalism already. And we think that is someone who engages in a kind of collective intelligence, and they do that because they are aware of their own place within the system. They don't think of themselves as just atomized individuals, but they see themselves as perhaps an individual, but with a relationship to a larger collective, and the ability to recognize what are things or actions that they can take that can best help the collective at that moment. So we could show information and give recommendations on this dashboard. For example, like right now, for example, the interest being earned on SDAI is very high. So now is a really good time to bake some bread, right? Because that would really, really help the collective with this high yield. We could say that maybe there's really low liquidity right now in our liquidity pool. It would be great if some people could add some liquidity. You, of course, would only know that if you knew that that was happening at the same time. So this is kind of like how I see in the long term, like how we can begin to change the mindset of how we relate to one another and make these relationships a bit more explicit thanks to on-chain data. There is something really unique about blockchains and this kind of economic information we have available to us. If we can make sense of it, if we can analyze it, we can then we can like start to try to produce something different. And so we go to the next slide. I think the slide is, if I remember correctly, the website where if you want to already, you can go and bake some bread. So you'll see in our application, this is called the bread crowd staking application. This is where you are able to mint bread with your XDAI. We have a partnership with GnosisDAO already, where they have minted 200K bread as a way to support the project, which we're super, super thankful about. And yeah, the application, you'll see that it's very, very simple. It's meant to be as user-friendly as possible for someone, even for someone who like doesn't know how to use crypto, because those are the types of people that also, like in the long run, we want to be able to onboard. But you'll see as well at the top that I think is really cool is like a TVL tracker. So whenever you mint your bread, you'll be able to see the tracker go up. So you'll see that, there's more bread in circulation. But yeah, so like kind of the part of the strategy going forward is basically getting more embedded in the Gnosis ecosystem, which includes encouraging people, for example, to sign up for a Gnosis Pay card, sign up for Monerium, ways to make it as easy as possible for people to be able to spend the bread token for their everyday purchases. So right now, like there's definitely an incentive to get bread as far as like helping the collective. There are also, the different projects have offerings or services that are priced in bread or maybe discounted in bread. But as well, we can at least say, thanks to the infrastructure that's currently being built with Gnosis Pay and others, is that we can say that at the very least, you can still make everyday payments in bread. And I think that's something that's like super powerful. And it's something that in crypto, we haven't yet had the ability to do in a way that is, more decentralized, and not needing like a credit card from like crypto.com or whatever. But yeah, so those are things that we're also building out. We're wanting to make, a module to make it easier for people to spend their bread using their Gnosis Pay card and things like that. The kind of like ideal, person that exists in our community is someone who maybe receives their wages in the IBAN that's connected to their Monerium account. That's connected then to maybe something that automatically converts those euro stablecoins into bread, and maybe then used as they make their as they spend with their Gnosis Pay debit card. That's kind of like our overall road to scaling. But yeah, so the application is up and ready, and try it out if you want, and provide some feedback, of course, in our in the Crypto Leftist Discord community. So we go to the next slide. A big event happening on May 25th. Should be on the next slide, but essentially, if you're in Berlin, May 25th, we're doing a Breadchain launch event at Moose. So this is during ETH Berlin. This is the Saturday. If you guys want to come down, there is an event page on Dandelion that maybe I can share maybe in like the Telegram and in other places. If you guys want to come, basically we're going to do, if you want to sign up, you can do a real bread baking workshop, so you can learn how to make real bread with your hands a couple of hours before the event starts, and then when the event starts, people will be able to do cash for bread exchanges, so you can give your cash and receive bread for it. We'll use an application called Citizen Wallet, which is what we use for mobile peer-to-peer payments. And you'll be able to use the bread then that you have in your wallet and Citizen Wallet to buy the bread that people baked earlier in the day. So some fresh bread. You can buy drinks and whatever else that's going to be there. And then we'll have presentations from myself and various other people about kind of the things that we're doing in Breadchain and different associated projects. So yeah, would love to see you guys there as well. On the next slide, I think is just our GitHub. If you are interested in learning more or in helping out in however you can or want to, there is our GitHub. All of the things that we do is open source, of course, including our application and the front end. So you can always see kind of how things work in the background. This is just as a way to be transparent, a way to as well, to be able to onboard people who want to contribute to something like this. And then in the next slide, I think I put the roadmap. Yeah. So I don't know how well you can necessarily see this, but this is the roadmap that I'll be showing, or the latest draft of the roadmap that I'll be showing probably on social media and as well at the event. But essentially, you can see that on the top we have kind of our community roadmap, how we plan on building community, the different types of projects that we're hoping to onboard in the future. So things like artist collectives, community spaces, cooperatively owned businesses, research institutions, and such. And you can see like there, if you can read that, maybe if you're watching it, you can pause it if you want, the end game of how we see our community building out and what we want our community to be like. And then in the technical roadmap, you'll see that, we have a lot kind of planned. We've already completed quite a bit of it as far as like deploying on Gnosis Chain. We're building out our governance system. We're working on a couple of different integrations and some potential extra governance features that we want to do in the future are there in the roadmap as well. And then you can read our end game, which is meant to explain kind of like what we hope in the future, how people will be able to interact technically with the different applications that we create in a way that basically, long story short, is to make it as easy as possible for people to bake bread, our community token, and take part in the ecosystem and vote and take part in the various organizations that would be part of the network. And then on the bottom, you can see some additional sources of revenue that we're hoping. For example, we would like to potentially, have a robust system of or a community of people who are validating on Gnosis Chain, perhaps start a distributed validator network on Gnosis Chain if that ever becomes available, potentially doing that on Ethereum mainnet. So we're hoping to also diversify the places where we receive our revenue. And so I think the next slide is the last one. So basically, yeah, thanks a lot for listening. There is the Crypto Leftist subreddit and Discord if you want to be part of the community, if you want to keep up closely. CryptoLeftist.xyz will just be the Discord invite if you want to do that. We're also on Twitter at @breadchain_. Mirror is where our blog is. And yeah, would love to see you guys bake some bread or even hack on top of the application. All of this is open source. All of this is permissionless. We've designed this in a way to make it possible for others to also accept a bread and kind of do what they want with it. So yeah, so that's Breadchain.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much, Josh. And it looks like we're having issues with the stream, so I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I just think that what you guys are doing is important and really great. From like a high level, I think Web3 is a design space, and we need more people who are willing to experiment in that design space. I also appreciate how you, I also appreciate how you situate just technology in general as something that's political and that has a feedback loop between, your political intentions, whether they're explicit or not, and social formation. So like the ability for that technology to impact social relations in a very real material way. So yeah, like Bitcoin obviously was created with a very specific set of politics, and it's cool to see an alternative project that has another set of politics that is not similar to Bitcoin, but something entirely different. So yeah, we're very psyched to have you on Gnosis Chain, and thank you so much for making the time. Please visit the Crypto Leftist Discord. It's a great community. There's a lot of great stuff going on in there. So yeah, if you're curious, please jump in there. And we hope to see you all in Berlin for DAppCon and the Berlin Blockchain Week. So we will see you there. Josh, any final remarks? Any further links or events or talks that you'll be at before we say goodbye?
I mean, I'll be. Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to say. I guess like I really appreciate you taking the time and letting me have the space to talk about it. Crypto is definitely a design space that I think has still not yet been fully explored. So we're really in the at the edges of innovation in many ways that I find like really, really exciting. And yeah, I'll be around during all the ETH Berlin kind of events. I'll probably be at DAppCon. I'll be speaking at the end of ETH Berlin. Of course, we have our Breadchain launch event on the 25th at the Moose Space, if you guys can make it. There will also be an after party as well. And then I'll be at Zuberlin organizing probably a couple of days there too. So I'll be around in Berlin.
Well, I'll definitely see you. And yeah, everyone watching, hope to see you too. And just finally, please visit the GnosisDAO forum if you're keen to get involved in our DAO governance, and come say hi in the Gnosis Chain Discord if you haven't already. If you'd like to become a validator, you can do so very easily. It's very cheap, and with solutions like DAppNode, there's basically in a couple clicks you can get a validator up and running and start securing Gnosis Chain. So thank you so much, everyone, for making the time. We'll see you on Chain. See you in Berlin. See you soon. Take care.
Thank you.